If you are taking a bunch of calls with clients who just aren't aligned with your business, they get on a call with you, they're not a good fit, and then everyone's wasting their time, then stick around. I'm going to show you how you can implement a simple automation using make.com to pre-qualify those leads to ensure that they are a good fit before they even hop on a call with you. So here's how this works. The client goes ahead and they fill out your form. Right now, I'm building mine in Fillout. It's a free form builder that you can use as well. They'll enter some information about their business, let you know if this project budget is within their range. So let's say, nope, that's above my current budget. Great, hop over to make.com. As soon as the contact form has been submitted, it'll capture the information here within this automation, and it'll go through one of two routes. Because the project budget was out of range for them, it's going to go down a different path. It's going to draft an entirely different email for this client, and then you can review and then approve this email that'll go out. So it's, hey Tam, thanks for reaching out and sharing some information with us. Totally understand the need to pre-qualify clients and avoid misaligned calls. While our services may not be the right fit budget-wise, we put together free resources that can guide you, and we're happy to point you towards a trusted partner who might align better with your current needs. Let us know if either option sounds helpful. Wishing you all the best as you move forward. Feel free to reach out if things change or if we can support you in another way. So this is one of the paths that you can go down. If the lead is qualified, it'll go down that other path where you'll create an email and send out your booking link and any resources that would be helpful for that client. So that's how that works. If you don't know who I am, my name is Tam, and this channel is really built around helping anyone of any technical skill level learn how to implement automations just like this into their business. So let's go ahead and get into this and walk you through step by step how I set this up. All right, so first let's take a closer look at each one of these modules just so you understand kind of what we're looking at, and then we're going to go more in depth into each one of these modules and how we set those up. So first thing is the trigger for this automation is a webhook. And if you're unfamiliar with webhooks, they really are just a way for applications to pass information instantaneously from one place to another. So in this example, we are taking the contact form submission details, so the answers that the client fills out on the website or through the form. We collect that information inside of Make the second that it's been submitted. So what that looks like here is I look at the output that I get from the webhook, and I go into the questions. I have a bunch of different collections. And basically, these are just the questions and the answers that I've received from the form. So once you get all the information inside of Make, you can do all kinds of things with it. The way that we're using it is to craft an email. You can also take that information and enter it into your CRM, or even send notifications to specific team members. So that's the first piece. How you set up a webhook. A webhook really is just a URL here. So if you're setting up the webhook for the very first time, you just want to click add, give it a name that is relevant to the automation that you're building, and then click save. Once you do that, you're going to get a URL that looks just like this. And in order to set it up, let's head over to our form builder. And in Fillout, so now we're in the form builder itself, there is an integration tab. Now, Fillout actually does have a direct webhook within Make you can set up, but I want to show it to you this way so that you're familiar with how to set up webhooks in general. So since I've already set up the webhook here, typically what you do is just click webhook and it would appear up here. You'd be able to edit it. And all it is a simple copy paste of the URL from make.com. You just drop it right in here. You can test it just to make sure that it works and it's connecting to the automation. But that's really it. That's how you set up a webhook. So we're not updating it, saving it. We're not making any changes. So I'm just going to leave it alone. Okay, so now I'm going to do something here. I'm going to show you a hack that's going to be extremely beneficial if you have webhooks like this where you're testing your automation and you don't want to have to continually submit the contact form over and over again just to be able to test these steps. So what I mean by that is let's go ahead and just run this automation and I'll show you exactly what I mean. So wait for new data, and I'm going to come back to the form that I need to fill out. So let's just enter in some bogus information. Okay, and this time let's go ahead and say that, yes, this project budget works for me just fine. We'll click submit. And what's going to happen is, again, this automation is going to go ahead and trigger and go through the flow. You'll see that this time it's going to go through the top path because I have selected, yes, this budget is within my project range or budget range. And it's going to create a entirely different email to send out. And real quickly, I'll just show you what that looks like. I think this is the latest one here. So the email that we get is going to be, hey, thanks for reaching out and sharing some information with us. Totally get that. Let's start by building systems. I get that takes some of the pressure off and bring more clarity to your day-to-day. So what's happening here is we're actually tailoring the message based off of the information given and their ideal outcomes. Let's set up time to chat, grab a spot on my calendar. This is offering the booking link. And you'll see here that this link actually includes what's called parameters, and I'll explain that in just a little bit, but it makes the user experience or the client experience that much better because you already have access to things like their name and their email. They're giving that to you in the form, and you're now just passing it through to your calendar booking link. So you can see my name has already been filled out and my email address has already been filled out as well. So that just makes that experience that much smoother and nicer for the client. So that's the other email. So now if we want to come back over to the automation and either adjust any of these pieces, remove anything or add anything, every single time we test, we then have to click run. And then we're going to have to go back and fill out that contact form again. So we don't want to do that. Let's go ahead and stop real quickly. We may have to do this one more time though. So what you want to do is actually, let's go ahead and unlink this trigger from the rest of the automation. We will run this once. Let's see if we can get existing data. I think it's not going to give us the information we want. You see output is empty. So we'll run this again. We're going to have to go back and wait for new data. And let's fill out this automation one more time, or this form one more time. So let's go next. Okay. And then we'll go ahead and do this just one more time now. Let's do this for now. We'll click submit. And what we're going to get is the webhook is receiving that data right away. We've got, you see that bundle, form name, here's the submission details, the questions, and all the answers, right? What we want to do now is just save this file or download the output bundle so that we can preserve all this information. And what you get is this scary looking, it looks like code. It's called JavaScript Object Notation, or JSON for short. It's just kind of like a language that automation tools like make.com and NAN recognize. So let's go ahead and just copy the whole thing. And what we want to do is now add a new module. So I'm double clicking on my canvas here, and I'm going to look for the parse JSON module. So we want to put the trigger down here. We want to move it from the webhook. We're going to move it back eventually, but for testing purposes, we'll have it sitting on the JSON. And we are going to drop our information that we copied, that output bundle, right over here in the JSON module. So now if I'm just gonna move this out of the way a little bit, the trigger is here sitting on this JSON module. Let's run this automation once. It's okay, it's telling us that the transformer should not be the last module in the route. That's totally fine. We're gonna run it anyway. And what we're going to get is the same exact detail that we got from the webhook. So now we can run this as often as we would like so that we can test the rest of the automation. Okay, cool. So let's actually attempt to build this thing just from scratch, right? We'll use this as an example above, but we'll build this from scratch. So what's happening in this first module? Now what this is we're setting variables, and the variable first name, which is the first name of the client who's submitting their information on the intake form, and then the booking link. And the reason why you may want to do this is because it keeps things a little bit cleaner. So later down in the workflow, I want to reference the first name of that person. And so instead of typing, this really long formula, I can come over to the draft email, and then I can just reference the first name that we have set in this module. And the same thing with the booking link. Why this is important is because if anyone else hops into this automation and they need to figure out what's going on, it makes it a lot cleaner and also more maintainable for anyone else coming in to make any changes in the future. Part of this is system design as well. Honestly, this module isn't needed. It's extra, but it's something that you can definitely provide to make the experience better. So why am I having to set a variable anyway? So let's go ahead and set multiple variables. And this is a built-in make.com module. And we're going to add the variable first name. Okay. And the value, so what we want to do is now we're getting information from the webhook, right? So if we go down to questions, and what we're seeing here is an array, and we have the value. Yes, that works for me. Let's go ahead and click this real quickly, and let's try to run this. So what we get is bundle 1, first name, client experience, start to finish. This is the answer for one of the questions in the intake form. And I believe that this is the first question. Select all areas where automation could save you time or energy. And the answer is client experience, start to finish. So what we actually want is the name, right? This is the second collection within the array. So what we're looking for actually is the answer or the value to the question full name. That's the second question in the questions array. Hopefully you're still following. So here, what we'll want to do is right here under the questions array, we'll actually just enter in the number 2. So if I run this again, now we actually get the value that's associated with that second question. Right? Get the full name, Tam Nguyen. Now, before we go into splitting my first name and last name, you can avoid the situation entirely. So if you go into your form builder and just ask for a first name, and then you ask for a last name, there's 2 things that you can avoid, right? Like if you go into your form builder and on the info page, I have one box here that asks for full name. So what can happen is someone can just enter their first name and leave off their last name. If you have 2 boxes, you're preventing that from happening, but also on the automation side, you won't have to do the splitting that I'm gonna have to do because I collected the full name. But this is also important because this is something that you would be using a lot through these automations anyway. So what we're going to do is we're going to use the split function, and we're going to wrap that, basically enclose that in these parentheses. So we have an open parentheses. So you can see here in this function, it takes a text input, and that text input is what we have here is going to be ultimately the first and last name, right? The name. And then the separator, so we got to add in a semicolon. You'll see now that separator has bolded. So separator is going to be, how do we split the name Tam Nguyen? There's a space in between, so we want to actually call this the space as the separator, right? And so how do you do that in make.com? You just head over here to this menu, and there's a space under keywords. So now we want to close those parentheses, and we will run this again. I'm just going to move this up just a little bit so we can see what's going on. And so now in the output, we get an array that includes Tam and then Nguyen. But that's not exactly what we want. We want to get only the first name, which is going to be Tam. So the next thing that we'll want to do here is use the get function. So of the 2 items that is in that array, we want to get that first item, which is the first name. So we're going to type get, open parentheses, and then, so here's the object or array, that's all the stuff in between. Okay, and then the path. So in this case, it says the first item in an array is index 1. And because we want to get the first item, which is the first name, we're going to type in 1. So let's close that function, click save, and we'll run this again. And so now what you have is a variable called first name, and then you're getting just that one item, which is that first name. So you can always go back and update your form so that you're collecting this separately, so you don't have to deal with these formulas at all. But that's that first part. Now what's happening in the second part? I'm also creating a variable called booking link. And I'm going to reference that variable later on when we're actually drafting and sending the email to the client. But what's cool about this is you can send a generic booking link over to your client, and that's totally fine. This is not required. But again, this is going to help improve the user experience or client experience. And they come in and they click your booking link and their name's already filled out and their email's already there. How awesome is that? Because they've already provided you that information. So what we're doing here is we're doing something called appending parameters to the back of the link. And so I'm using cal.com as my scheduler. And you can see here that this is the base URL. So the base URL is this. What we're doing is we're appending, so anything after the question mark, we're appending parameters. So the first parameter that we're adding is name, and the second parameter, separated by an ampersand, is email. And what we're doing is we're passing these pieces of information over to cal.com or Calendly or whatever system you're using to basically pre-fill the boxes in your booking link. So name equals, and then you may recognize this, right? The questions, number 2 field, or like the second item in that questions array should return us the full name. We've also got email, which is the 5th item in the questions array that we received from the webhook. So if I go over to the output again, bundle, questions, 5th or number 5, we're getting the email, and then that's what we're grabbing. We're grabbing the actual email itself. So let's go ahead and, because I already walked through this, let's just go ahead and copy and paste this and add a second variable called booking link. We're going to drop the variable value in, and actually let's build this from scratch because now we're referencing data from this original webhook, and it's not going to work because we're testing right now with this one. So let's go ahead and do this. So we go name equals, let me just double check. All right, so name equals, now we are going to point to that first module. You see how it's pulsating. We've got questions. We want to grab the value, but we want to do it from the second item in the array. Now we want to separate the parameter and add a second parameter called email equals, and now we want to grab the email. So questions value, and again, that was the 5th item in the array. So let's just go ahead and make sure that this is working properly. Let's run this again. So we have got now first name, the variable first name, which is Tam. Again, this is going to be dynamic. So every time someone else new hops onto your form, fills it out, it'll take their first name and populate it here. Same thing here for the booking link. So we have now the base URL that has been appended with some parameters, the name, the full name, as well as the email. So what does this actually do? Let's go ahead and, again, hop over, copy and paste this into the browser window. We're going to select a time. And then you'll see here that my name has now been populated along with the email address. So really nice experience. Now, one thing that I did want to call out here is that this isn't going to be a cal.com tutorial necessarily, but the parameters that we set up to capture that information from our contact form and then pass that through to the booking link like we just did, that's going to be dependent upon your booking tool that you're using. So like a Calendly or cal.com is definitely going to have the parameter capability available for you to use. And what that looks like in cal.com specifically is here. So we've got the booking questions. So you've got the first name, the email address, and some other fields as well, right? So if I click into edit in cal.com, you can set the identifier to, in this case, I've set it to name. And then for email, I've set that to email. And so when you're creating the booking link, cal.com, and you've got that parameter towards the end, the identifier that we use is going to be equal to the identifier that we've set here. So if I name this something different, like email address, for example, in here, then I would also have to have email address in my URL as well. So again, this isn't necessarily a tutorial for cal.com. So I just want to leave you with that in case you wanted to try to implement something like this through your own automations. That is the second step. All right. Sorry, let's head back to make.com. So now what we're going to do is we're going to add a router, and then we're going to add some conditions to help us or filter, I guess, whether or not the lead is aligned with our business. If they're within budget, let's send them down a certain path. If they aren't and they can't afford our services, we're going to send them down a different path. So we're going to use something called a router. And this is a make.com module that's available. Before we start adding other steps, let's go ahead and set the conditions, right? We're going to set these filters. So in the top filter, what we're doing is, actually, let's just go ahead and do this from scratch. I'm going to move this down a little bit, give it some space. All right, so this is going to be the path that we are going to take if the client is okay with the budget that we've set. So the label is going to be something like validated, just a name that'll appear right here. The condition, so if you remember in the form, we have a budget question. Most projects start at $3,000. Is that in range for you? This helps make sure that we're a good match before we dig in. There are 3 answers. Yes, that works for me. 2, I'm not sure yet. I'd love to talk it through. And then 3, no, that's above my current budget. So 3 answers that we could potentially get. Now, when we hop back to make, what we want to do is set the condition, right? The condition is if the answer to the last question, which is 8. So if we pop back over to here, we'll see that the question number 8 is, this helps make sure we're a good match before we dig in. There's checkboxes, and then in there, the answer is yes, that works for me. So in this filter, we want to say, it's validated if the answer to that question is equal to yes, that works for me. Now, there's one thing that you want to just be mindful here when you're using a text operator like this. Equal to is case sensitive. So if you type in yes and it's lowercase, it's not going to capture the answer. And so just to make it a little bit more flexible, you'll want to maybe choose the text operator where equal is case insensitive. So it just makes it a little bit easier. So if you were to type something like this, that would still work. But let's go ahead and save this. So, all right, and now let's test this flow. So we haven't set up the second filter yet. That's okay. Let's click run. And maybe what we need to do is add something here. Okay, that's all right. Let's go and set up that second filter. So the second one is not validated or not valid. Condition is going to be something similar, where we have the question and the value for the 8th item in the questions array is, in this case, we're going to set it to not equal to. Yes, that works for me. The other 2 answers were, hey, I'm not sure if that fits my budget, let's talk about it, or no, that's not within my budget. And so if it's not this, it means they selected the other 2. One of the easier ways just to go ahead and create that filter. Okay, next step, let's go ahead, and I'm not going to build this one from scratch. Let's go ahead and do this. You can copy, what's cool about this is you can copy and paste previous modules that you've created. So you don't have to recreate them, especially if you have multiple paths like this. You can simply just drag your mouse across the screen, copy this entire path, and then recreate it below so you don't have to create it from scratch. So let's connect this here. Let's delete this module. Actually, we don't need it. And let's talk about leveraging OpenAI. Now, in one of my previous videos, I showed you how to create a developer account. This is separate from the chat interface that you typically work with in ChatGPT. You do need a developer account. You do need to fill the OpenAI billing account with a few dollars. And honestly, that will take you a very long way unless you're working with high volumes of data and transactions. So let's take a look at this module real quickly. Now, once you've added your OpenAI account in here, what you're going to be able to do is select different models that you want to work with. I'm just going to leave this defaulted to the 4.0 model, latest system. And what we're looking at here is basically prompting best practices. So you can set the role to be one of 3 things: developer system, assistant, or user. And the developer system is typically assigning GPT a role. You are an intelligent and helpful client onboarding manager for an automation agency. In this case, let's go ahead and update this. Helpful lead filtering assistant and email drafter for an automation agency. The user is you. So if you were talking to the ChatGPT interface and you were typing something in, this is what you would type. So in this case, draft a one-liner addressing the client's goals and touch on their experience with no-code tools. Example client input. So we're going to give them an example, and the more examples that you can give AI, the better that it's going to perform, meaning it has some information that it can work with. Inputs and outputs, you're going to give it an example input, like my goal is to start an AI agency. I need help with client onboarding workflows. And then in the next message, you're going to assign the assistant role. You're saying like this is how the AI should respond, is pretty much what you're saying. So this is how AI would respond to this previous input. It would say, starting an AI agency is an exciting step, and we're here to support you. Let's work together to create a smooth, efficient client onboarding workflows that sets the foundation for your success. Now, you want to make this sound like you want to make it actually something that you would write back to a client. And then typically if you give 2 examples or more, it will perform better. So we're going to do it again. We're going to have another role, user role, example client input, goal. I run a marketing agency and we need to find ways to better communicate with our clients and improve project delivery. Things are starting to fall through the cracks. And then the example output that you want AI to give, again with the role assistant. I hear you on things falling through the cracks. It's a common challenge. Improving communication and streamlining project delivery can have a huge impact. Let's collaborate on a system that keeps everything running smoothly for your team and for your clients. Cool. So now that AI has a couple of examples and it knows what its role and task is, you can provide additional guidelines to help keep it kind of contained, because AI can do things like hallucinate and make things up, or it can get a little bit too creative, or it can use words that you don't want it to use. That's a dead giveaway. That is AI that you're using to write your emails. So you can call this important rules. You can call this guidelines. We call it important rules here, and this is a user prompt. So this is going to be the last thing that we send over to AI to get it to actually draft the email. So first, do not thank them in your output. Do not make any promises. Be approachable and engaging and make them feel comfortable working with us as if it were their first time working with an automation agency. Be concise. Do not use the following phrases or punctuation, em dashes, one step at a time. This is very short, but you get the idea. This can be a very long piece that you add in here. And then do not mention the use of no-code tools. Use systems instead. So here's the input from the client. And so what we're taking is, what we're referencing is the goals section, right? What would a successful outcome look like for you? So once we get in information from the client, we are going to take that and drop it in here into AI. AI is going to take that piece of input and then create a small paragraph within the overall email. So let's go ahead and point to that information. So we've got in the questions, okay, and we want to make sure that, again, that we're grabbing the right. So I'm going to hop back over here to the output of the actual intake form questions, and I think it is number 7. I'd love to reduce back and forth emails with clients, or I want systems that save me time every week. Okay, so it's number 7. We'll pop back over to AI and add it here. All right, so let's go ahead and do that and save that real quickly. And let's try running this. All right, let's see what went wrong. It says, cannot initialize scenario because of the reason scenario validation failed. One problem's found, invalid reference and filter. Validate. So something is happening with the filter. Okay. Let's redo this piece here. So we want to grab it from questions and the value. I want to do it from the last question. Same thing here. I think that's okay. So let's try that again. Okay, so that looks like it is. So what happened was actually somehow we were pointing it to the information that was being received from this webhook up here instead of the test module. So now you can see that that one bundle is being sent through every one of these modules, right? And you see that this one has number 1, so it went through this filter. It said the answer received from the form does match. Yes, this worked for me. So it goes up this top path, and then it goes through and sends that information to AI. And now what we're doing is, and if you're interested as well, you can see like how many tokens it costs or how many tokens it utilized to actually create this output, right? So usage, you can see the prompt tokens is 326, completion tokens is 30, total tokens utilized is 356, so just quite low. So this is a fraction of a cent that we're using here to actually complete this draft. The draft is pretty small. So we've got the bundle result, and the result is reducing misaligned client calls starts with the right systems in place. Let's explore how to create more clarity and structure in your communication process. Okay, that's pretty good. So the goal here is that we are acknowledging the pains that they have shared with us, or the goals that they have shared with us, and then we're going to take this and drop that into the email so that we're making it more personalized rather than just sending out a transactional email like, hey, thanks for reaching out. We're excited to talk to you soon. This provides a little bit of personalization, and that's going to go a long way. So the next step is to, in the above scenario, I had a sleep module. And the reason what a sleep module is that it basically allows you to delay the next step in the automation for X number of seconds. And what we're trying to do here is basically, not send a super personalized email immediately after they submitted the contact form submission, because that is just not realistic. As a human, it's going to take you at least a few minutes for you to see that form, formulate a response, and then send that out. What we want to do is just add that sleep module to kind of mimic human behavior. So we're going to sleep for, and you might want to do it for something like 180 seconds, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 5 minutes, what have you. In this case, the max that you can set the delay to is 300 seconds. So just keep that in mind. I'm just going to set this to 1 for testing purposes so that we're not waiting for 3 minutes every single time we run this. So let's click save. And then we'll add the last module, right? So now that we have this kind of tailored response, we are going to actually create a draft email. And we'll look up the email module and we're going to create a draft. Now, as you get more comfortable with this automation, once you've tested this out for a while and you trust the responses that it's generating and you trust that your leads are getting filtered properly, then you can just go ahead and send out the email, right? Instead of having to create a draft, review it, and then send it out. So send an email, but in this case, we're going to create the draft instead. The same way that you connect your account in other modules, you will do the same here. When you're adding your email for the first time, you will want to click add at the top, and you can choose between Google, IMAP, or Microsoft. Okay. Once you click one of these, it's going to basically go through the authentication steps. So you log in using your email and password. It's going to connect it here, and then you should be good to go. All right, folder. So we want to choose a folder where this draft email is going to be saved. And I'm just going to choose the drafts folder here. The to field. Now we can select within the questions array, and remind me again, I have to remind myself where that email address was located. Company address, website. Email was the 5th item in the questions array. So we're going to add 5 here. And what this is going to do, again, this is a dynamic variable where that email address is going to update every time someone new sends in a contact form. Subject can be, hey, Tam here. Nice to meet you. Okay, something along those lines. This is where you actually write the email body. So, hey, first name. So this is where when you've set variables earlier in the automation, this now becomes easier to reference that information. Because if you recall, for us to get the first name, we had to have this entire formula created, right? We don't want to just have to create that every single time. So now we can just say, hey, first name. Thanks so much. Actually, let me just go ahead and copy what I have above here so we don't have to do it again. This is done in HTML. That's okay. I guess what we can do is just kind of talk through what HTML is. It's basically a format that browsers, like website browsers, recognize. And so you have these like tags. So these are break tags. They kind of simulate like the enter key on your keyboard. So when you have break tag like this, it's going to hit enter once and then hit enter twice because we have 2 breaks. And then this is kind of like what a link looks like, the ahref. So you can choose to use HTML or you can choose to use plain text and not have to deal with these tags. Now, the reason you might want to use HTML tags before we move on from the subject is that you want to kind of send an email that is polished and the link is actually hyperlinked as opposed to just having this really long, ugly link that's kind of just hanging out there. So that's why you might want to use HTML. Okay, a few other things that we need to fix here. So I copied this module from above, and what you'll notice here is that there's this variable is solid, so it has a background fill. This one does not. It's kind of just outlined in green, and what that means is that we are referencing variables that don't exist in this particular flow. And if what this is you'll see here that's referencing module number 3, the result from module number 3. What that is actually this module right here. You can see the draft email module number 3. Because we copied the entire module, that's where it's pointing to. So what we'll need to do is actually change this from 3 to 29, right? This is module number 29. We want the result from that. And a shortcut is, number 1, you can always just go and click on the result. So reducing misaligned clients starts with, it's that easy. Or you can, if you are a little bit more comfortable just typing in manually, you can go double curly braces. Sorry, 1 second. Double curly braces, and then go back down here to 29, which is the module number, message, sorry, if I can type, and then result, which is the content. Okay, we're actually going to output, we're looking for result right here. So in order to type this manually, we just go 29 result. And now this is in that darkened color. It's filled in. We're referencing a field that we now have access to. The same thing for the booking link. So if we head over here, we've got the module 27. Double braces, 27 dot booking link is the name of the variable. And then we'll close it with a couple of double curly braces. So you know it works when it references and pulsates like that, and then also is the background is like fully colored in. Okay, bear with me. We are almost done with this. We are going to just copy and paste now from for the other side, just to make sure that this works. Let's save this. Oh, couple things. I think we lost the folder, so let's go ahead and update this real quickly from to drafts, and then we're gonna add the recipient email address, which was 5, I believe. Subject, hey there, Tam here. Okay, a few more things that we want to touch on. Let's go ahead and, if you wanted to add an attachment, you could add one here. Not going to get into that in this video. Let's show advanced settings. There's a few things that I just want to show. You can add CC, like you can CC people in this email or BCC them. The from section, this is something that I do actually like to complete. And I'm going to copy the example down here where it says John Bush, it's super tiny. We're going to paste that in the into the from box. And so what we want to do is update the your actual name here within the quotes, and then the email that you're going to be sending from. So in my case, it'll be hello@techwithtam.com. And this just helps the sender or like the from field to display your name correctly, because if you leave this blank, it could, you know, cut off your name. It might not even show your name at all. It might only show an email address. So you want it to appear professional by adding your full name and your leave as is. Let's save. And then let's try this out one more time just to make sure that it works. So we'll click run. You can see that it's going through that filter, creating that draft email, sleeping for a second. We're going to update that in the future, and then creating that draft. So let's head over to our drafts folder and see if that is indeed the case. All right, so there's that new draft. And okay. So it says it's populated with the right email. Hey there, Tam, here's subject line. Hey, Tam, thanks for reaching out. This is populated, by the way, that first name. Thanks for reaching out and for sharing some information with us. Misaligned clients calls can be frustrating. Let's explore systems that create clear communication and better alignment from the start. Let's set up a time to chat. Just grab a spot in my calendar. So this is where HTML comes into play, because otherwise you might just, if you use plain text, you're just going to see the entire URL inside of the email. This just looks so much cleaner and nicer. That's where HTML comes into play. So grab a spot in my calendar when it works for you. Excited to connect and explore how we can support you. So if I click on this now, it should take me to the booking link. Okay. And if I click on a time, it's going to populate with my name again and email address. Awesome. Okay, so let's head back over to Make. Creating that second pathway and then making sure that that works as well. There's nothing new to be done here. So basically Once you have the conditions in place or the filters in place, you just want to test to make sure that the automation is working properly, and that when you're choosing, the client is filling in and they're saying, hey, this isn't within my budget, let's have a talk, or whatever, it'll go down this path and create that draft email. So the next step here when you're building this yourself is you could totally just go ahead and copy this, like select all these modules, copy this, and then let's delete this real quickly, paste it, and we can connect it here. Let's collect these modules, delete this one. You'll see here that the filter is preserved. We can move this up here. And then this is where you would go in and edit the prompts within the draft email, because instead of creating a response that is like, hey, we're excited to work with you, here's how we can help you, we're going to create a response that says like, hey, I hear you, I hear your struggle, but we're also going to send you some resources and potentially refer you out to one of our partners. So you want to edit the draft site as well. And then once you have confirmed through testing that this is properly routing things, this is where you would remove the JSON module. So we're going to unlink it, and then even delete it altogether. Okay, so that has a trigger on it. So we're going to move that back up to the form submission webhook. So that's connected to Fillout. You want to connect it here. And you'll start to see here that some of these modules are now broken, right? They've got like the red dot up in the corner. They are broken because they are referencing information from that parse JSON module that we had just deleted. So you will need to go in here and just update these fields to make sure that they're mapping properly to the actual webhook. We're not going to do that in this video because we don't want this to be a million hours long, but the final product is going to look something like this. If you want the blueprint, I am going to have it in my blueprint library. I'll link it in the description below. You can simply just import this into your own make.com account. The way that I do this, and you can always share blueprints with others as well, I just export it. It creates a JSON file. When you create a new scenario in your make.com account, just go ahead and click the import blueprint button. Take that same JSON file, import it to your account, and it's going to populate with all of these modules here, with all of the logic, with the routers, with even the prompts inside of OpenAI. All you need to do is connect to your own accounts in order for you to make this work for yourself. So I hope this was helpful. Make sure you like and follow if you want more automation tutorials just like this.